Okay, so let's go over lesson 17 exercises. So section A, this is for section A. You have your phrases and sayings. Now, a lot of these are going to come from chapters past. So you should know these from your flashcards. Your flashcards also contain the Latin sayings, such as Semper Fidelis. Number 1, Semper Fidelis. If you don't remember that one, that was from one of the past weeks, and it may have been a while. So you need to be going through your flashcards, and hopefully that one, if you don't know it, it's in your don't know pile, and you can be moving it into your do know pile. Writing things down is a great way to drill them into your brain. So don't neglect the writing, even though you're still doing the flashcards. So that one you should have as always faithful. It's the saying of the Marines. One out of many. That one is also one of our past Latin sayings. Now, in the phrases and sayings, you're going to come to some of them that you may not know very well, such as number 3, what is your name? If you don't know those, also quid agis, how are you? Satis bene. Those ones come from like conversational Latin things that we've said a little bit throughout class, but they are in the back of the book. And I don't know exactly what page, but there's a whole list of them in the back of your book. So you can find them, not even in the dictionary, just a list of them in the back, I believe. But they're there. Just get familiar with the back of the book and what is in there, especially moms, so you can point kind of to there. And then section B, the grammar. The what case is used for the subject of sentence. So we go over this every week in our recitation at cottage school together, and you'll see me up here say the nominative is the what case, and we say the functions of the cases. Now I hold up my right hand when I do it, and say nominative in the what case it is. If you've forgotten that, you of course can look in pages prior in your lessons, or again get familiar with the back of the book, but page 123 where it says, whenever you get to exercises and you're in the grammar section, there's grammar in the back of the book to teach moms or whoever. I'm looking at a teacher's manual, so I think it may be in the student, it may not, but it's definitely in the teacher's guide where there's advanced grammar overview. And page 123 goes over the cases and their functions. Okay, so let's get to some translation work. Okay, so section C is we're translating with the nominative case. So let's go over here to the whiteboard. And it won't be a perfect thing, but I think we can definitely do this. Okay. So we have gladi, and then we're going to circle the Latin plural endings and translate. So I'll do a few of these with you. Gladi e. So this is where it's getting, if you don't know your forms super well, this could be a little confusing. So let's go back to our forms and remember. Now, glad-y. You got to think back to your stem. When did you learn a word that started with glad-y? This is the ending, and this is the stem. The stem is the part of the word that always is there. It doesn't change. It's the ending that changes. So let's go back to the stem. If you know your flashcards well, this should trigger in your head gladius. Gladi-e, and I'm just going to write the I to remind us that's gladi-e. So let's go back to our forms then. If this is confusing, these endings, especially there's 2 I's, that feels confusing. Remember your stem is the glad-e, and then the ending is that us there. So the stem is the part that doesn't change. So let's just remember our second declension real quick, and then we'll do it here because we've got some room. Us, you can say it with me, us, e, o, hello, we don't need a dot over now, o, o, so this is our singular side. Plural, which means more than one, we have e, o room, is, os, what's next? Is. Good. And I put the dashes because that means it's like a caboose. These are the cabooses that need to attach to a stem train. So you can add these to any second declension noun. And they just add on as the little caboose, as they're the caboose. They're the ending of the stem. So here's our little stem train. Choo-choo. And then we need a little caboose to link on our ending. So please notice the similarities. We have 2 O's and we have 2 E's. This can feel confusing, but it's not. And here's why. Because the sentence is going to tell you if it's going to be this O, the dative, or the ablative. The sentence will let you know if it's a genitive singular or a nominative plural. Now, in our section C, it has already told us that it's going to be in the nominative case. If you read it right here, the blue bold writing says, translation, nominative case, circle the Latin plural endings and translate. So we can just forget all of this down here. It's telling us it's in the nominative case. So it's going to be, Glady E is going to be this one because this is only the nominative. This is not a nominative. This is a nominative. So it's going to be this one. So we have our stem Glady and then E. We're going to circle that nominative plural ending. And now we need to translate it. So let's go back to gladius. The more you can make funny or interesting things to help you remember your words, the better. Gladius, gladii reminds me of a gladiator, and gladiators used swords. So we could say, you could just remember that gladius means sword because of gladiators use swords. That's how I would do it. So gladius, gladii, and we know it's going to be nominative because they told us it was. Is it nominative singular or nominative plural? Plural. And how would we translate swords to be plural? Is it sword or swords? Swords. You're right, because that is plural. So on blank 1, number 1, you should have circled the I. Then on the blank provided next to it, you would write swords in the plural. Swords. Make sure you get that S in there because this I over here is plural. So gladii comes from gladius, but they've changed the stem to be nominative plural. Let's do one more. And we need my eraser so we can erase. It's getting a little bit hard, don't you think? Okay, we'll leave this up. Okay. Well, maybe we'll do a couple more. Let's look at number 2, on-a-me. On-a-me. Now, we got to remember our flashcard. So if this is difficult for you and this feels like mumbo jumbo, it's just because you don't know your words well enough. So on a me, we need to look at what's the stem. So this is our caboose right here. You got to know the stem, and this should jog your memory on him to on a moose, on a me, which was your flashcard. Your flashcard was on a moose, on a me. So that should jog your memory to on a moose. What does on a moose mean? Well, it means mind or spirit. So mind or spirit. So that needs to jog our mind back to on a moose. Okay, so that's all about knowing your flashcards. I should be able to say to you, on him, and you should say, on a moose, and say, mind or spirit. So it's the same thing you're doing. When you see a word translated, your mind should be playing that game like I just did with you. On a moose, okay? So you should see that and know that. And if that doesn't come to you right away, it just means that you don't know your words well enough. Get out those flashcards and get these words down like they're old friends and you know them. When you start to see their name, it comes right to you. There was a game on TV, they still have it, like Wheel of Fortune, and the people would keep guessing letters in the sentence, like hangman, and people would be like, oh, I know it, and they'd shout it out because they knew how many letters, they knew the word so well, and it just was like, oh, I know it. Okay, so that's how this should become to you. You should see on a me, and I cover up the ending, and you should be like, oh, it's on a moose, because I know that word so well. All right, so it just comes back to the flashcard memorization. So on a me, we chop off the ending, and we are going to circle the plural. So again, they've already told us that's nominative. We can just ignore all this. So on a moose, on a me, it's the plural nominative ending. We're going to circle this, and then it would be fine to write minds or spirits on the blank because we want the plural ending. So the answer key says minds. So either one would be acceptable. Don't forget that S because it's on the plural side. Okay, this next one will be another good one to do because it's a different declension. By the way, what declension was that? That's right, second declension, because it's the us, masculine, right? Us. Okay, so now tell me what declension this one is. Aquil A. What declension? First declension feminine. Now this was our second declension. We need to rewrite our first declension. Hopefully by now you know the first declension really, really well. So let's go ahead and say that. A, arum, is, as, is. Okay, very good. So now you need to know, you need to be looking at your word here and decide what is the caboose? What is our stem and what is the ending? Remember, I call the ending the caboose. So what is our stem? Well, again, we should know our flashcards like old friends and say, oh, Aquila. Well, that's one of our houses. I know that word so well. It means something to me too because I'm in the house of Aquila, you might say if you're in the house of Aquila. So this is our stem and this is the ending or the caboose. So there's our little train, choo-choo, and here is our ending. You will circle that because that is a plural ending. Again, they've told us we're only looking at the nominative, so you can ignore all the genitive, dative, accusative, ablative. We're not going to be dealing with those. They made it easy on us. So this is the singular side, and this is the plural. Here is Aquila A. It's in the plural side. So what would we write on the blank? Well, we need to remember our flashcard, Aquila, Aquilae, and that means eagle. So it's in the plural, so it's going to be eagles. Okay, so the rest of them are pretty well the same, except 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are in English to Latin. So let's just do one English to Latin. And I'm going to pick one that's in the first declension because I've got a first declension chart up. So let's just do number 8, forests. Now, if you know my little silly thing I like to say for forests, it's a silva forest. Imagine a forest that's silver, a silva forest. So that's my silly thing to help me remember forests. So we need to actually write it in Latin. So I know my flashcard said silva, silvae, right, with a comma. Silva, silvae. That is what your flashcard form is. That's what you need to memorize. Nominative singular, genitive singular. Nominative singular, genitive singular. This is always what's going to be on your flashcard. Nominative singular, genitive singular. Nominative singular, genitive singular. They want me to write it in the plural because forests, F-O-R-E-S-T-S, is plural. So this is the nominative singular, genitive singular, but they want me to write it in the nominative plural. So let's get to our stem, the part that is not the caboose, which is silv. This is our part that will stay the same for us the whole time. So the ending is the ah, which I think you know that by now. So it would be silv, and then we need to add our caboose ending of nominative plural, which would be a. And yes, remember it is the same in the genitive singular. But again, when you get into higher translation, the sentence will tell you whether it's a genitive singular or whether it's a nominative plural. It will be obvious and very different. So you don't have to worry about trying to figure out which one is which later. That will come on its own. All right, good. Let's go on to section D. So section D now. And I think I'll stop the video there.